Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can someone just triple check that we're actually live streaming? Thumbs up. Anyone? We're live
I'm
streaming?
checking. I'm checking.
Awesome. We're live streaming?
Yes, Rosa, we're live.
Brandy said yeah.
Someone needs to mute.
I think that's me.
Right. So everyone, good morning. Please don't forget to mute yourself. Why do I have it twice? I hear myself twice.
Do you have the YouTube up on your screen?
Yeah, that
Press
was
on the
it.
YouTube.
Okay. I believe now I solved the problem. Thank you, Randy. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us at CPAC's meeting for November 14. Hoping everyone is having an amazing day and week, obviously. We are going to, let me just share my slides. Second. Okay, thumbs up if you can see my slides. Beautiful, thank you so much. And okay. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Good morning, everyone, again. I'm going to, the first thing is welcome, welcome, and welcome, and congratulations to the new executive board. You see their names on the screen. Congratulations, yay, working together as always. Um, we are going to read the CPAC procedures and standard rules. Uh, you have seen it in your emails, it's a lot, and these are a summary of the CPAC rules, which I'm going to read right now. Raise your hand and wait to be recognized before speaking, right? Be an active listening and engage, be respectful, kind, and professional. One mic, one, two, three before me. Don't. Please don't unmute yourself. No side conversation. Please don't disrespect anyone. No follow-up questions after you have already your question has been answered. And is infractions. What does that mean? If you do a boo-boo, right? First infraction is a warning. The second one will be you will be muted, and then the third one you will be removed from the current meeting. Any questions? Please write it in the chat. But no side conversation and stay engaged. The current members as of yesterday that have sent all their election forms and count as quorum for today are District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4, District 5, District 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 21, 22, 25, 26, 28, 29, 30th, 32, 75, Bronx High School President's Council, Brooklyn High School President's Council, Manhattan High School's President's Council, Queens High School President's Council, and Staten Island President's Council. If you have not done so already, please, 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 it's imperative that Anthony Aguilar has all your forms completed and signed, election date, and also um, the person that held the election. Okay, now I'm going to pass the mic to the beautiful Randy to do roll call.
Thank you, Rosa. Okay, so we're gonna call roll call by district. So if you're here, just unmute and say that you're here. Ashley, District 1. I saw Ashley. Okay, District 2,
Here.
District 3. District 3. District 4. District 5. District 6. District 8.
Here, good morning, present.
Thank you, Erica. District 11. District 17. I thought I saw 17.
Here.
Thank you, Veronica. District 20.
Here.
District 21.
Yeah.
District 22. District 25.
Here.
District 26. I saw District 26. District 26, Adriana. District 28. District 29.
District 29 is here. Priscilla Montero.
Thank you, Priscilla. District 30.
Present.
District 32.
Present.
District 75. Brooklyn High School, I am here. Bronx High School. Manhattan President's Council. Rose, I know you're here. Queens High School
Here.
and Staten Island High School.
Present.
Anyone I missed?
I
District
think you
25.
might have missed, apologies. I think you might have missed District 14. Yatsuel Parada.
Oh, District 14. No? Okay. All right, please make
s-
sure you fill out the attendance form and then we'll know that you're definitely here.
I
Okay,
see a hand raised. District
that's Rachel.
25.
I captured her for attendance.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Rachel. We
no,
got you.
District 26 put in the chat that they're here, but they're at a coffee and conversation and cannot speak. So I just wanted to make sure their presence was recognized.
Okay, yes,
Right.
I
This
had,
is what we said about being engaged, but thank you.
all right, I turn the floor back over to you, Chair Rosa.
Thank you so much, Randy. Okay, and the agenda for today is roll call, which Randy just did, CPAC business. This is what is like a new chapter, right? We are going to be engaged because we sign up to do the work, and together, right, we can inform and guide other parents. And how do we do that is by actually being in the meeting, staying connected and active and engaged and learning, because all this knowledge will be bringing back to our district, our borough, for my example, Manhattan. I'm going to bring it back all the information that I'm learning today and what I keep on learning, because every single day is a learning lesson, at least to me. Okay. Um, so today we're having a presentation from the Office of Supervisors of School Psychologists by Executive Director of School-Based Evaluation and Family Engagement. Please correct me if I'm saying your name incorrectly, Arwin Vallejo. And at around 10:10, we're having the Division of Inclusive and Accessible Learning by Senior Executive Director of Special Education School Support, Andy Corso, and the Associate Director of Special Projects, Special Education Office, Stephanie Gemilo. And also Office of Food and Nutrition Services, we're having the Chief of Staff, Nelson Quiles, Nicole Bonica, and Christopher, one second, my screen is covering the last name, Tricario. And we're also having a face updates. I'm not able to see everyone, but hopefully Dr. Christina is here and BB and everyone. And we're going to hear from our new chancellor, Chancellor Melissa Aviles Ramos. We are so excited to work with you and move forward from anything that has been going on in the past. So we are super, super excited. We are also, hopefully, we have enough time to do district updates. So if you have anything going on in your district and borough, please write it down. So when we call your name, we call your district, you are ready. And then hopefully we'll adjourn and have an amazing rest of the day. If you haven't seen it already, we have updated the monthly dates for our general meetings and also the executive board meetings. That's our email address, info@cpacnewyorkcity@gmail.com. And mark your calendar for the next meeting, December 12th at 9:30 a.m. Okay. CPAC committee meetings. I have not been able to attend the high school. I'm going to be very honest and transparent. I was a little occupied with work, but I will make it my business to attend, if not most of the meetings, to see what we can have a recap of everything that happened during the upcoming months. So capacity building and support means quarterly or as needed, the first Tuesday of the month at 11:30 a.m. Communication meets quarterly, the first Tuesday of the month or as needed. High school is the first Monday of the month, unless it's a holiday, around 10:30 a.m. Uh, just in case so everyone knows, it's the same chair for that committee that is continuing the work. Legislative committee meets quarterly or as needed. Multilingual language learners, bilingual English language learners meets quarterly. And of course, the special education, you can see the dates on the screen. Title I meets quarterly, the first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. Wellness, health, and safety is the second Wednesday of the month at 10:30 a.m. And the alumni, it meets quarterly or as needed. Okay. And now we're going to our presenters. Don't mind my screen. I'm going to take it off right now. Okay, the first presenter, you have the mic, which is the Office of Supervisors of Schools psychologist.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Lauren Sullivan, and I'm joined with my colleague here, Arwina Vallejo. I'm going to take a moment just to take over the screen sharing, if you'll give me a moment.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Armina Vallejo, and while Lauren gets up, Lauren will be leading the charge. I'm getting over a bit of a respiratory infection here, but I'm in the background, happy to answer any questions and chime in as needed. Lauren's our Director of Evaluations and Eligibility. No one better than her to lead the work here. Glad to be here with everyone this morning.
Great. Thanks, Arwina. And I think we're all set up here now. Excellent. Great. So as Arwina explained, we are from the Office of Supervisors of School Psychologists, and we are really thankful to be here with you today. It was an honor to be invited, and not just because this is our work and what we do on a day-to-day basis, but because this is the work that we really believe in, that an appropriate, a thorough, and high-quality evaluation that really determines if a student meets eligibility requirements for special education services and the requirements that come along with that and then connects them to services that support them academically, socially, while they are in school. And then, of course, to achieve those after school, after high school goals. That's why we get excited to talk about evaluations, assessments, IEP development. And like Arwina said, we lead a lot of professional learning with our team. So it's excited to have this group here today. Arwina is our Executive Director of School-Based Evaluations and Parent Engagement, and she is a bilingual school psychologist who supported many students and many families for years and continues to do so in this role. So while I'll be taking the mic today, she's also here to support and will be able to answer any questions you have in the chat as well. Okay, so in our short time together today, a quick 20 minutes on something that we could talk for hours about, we really hope that you will understand the role of the school psychologist in the evaluation process, learn more about assessment options that are available for students, make connections between the assessments that we conduct in our schools with students and to the IEPs that we then develop for them. If necessary, and how we connect that to what we call the continuum of services. So the role of the school-based support team, the SBST, our school psychologists and social workers, well, that's who we're talking about when we talk about our school-based support teams. They are supporting in districts 1 through 32, district 75, and they're primarily supporting the evaluation process. So when a request is made for an evaluation, some 3 big steps that they take to go through this process is really leading, planning, and reviewing what they have learned about the child during this time. So they don't just lead this work in their own bubble, but really they work really closely with all stakeholders to examine the reason for referral, the appropriateness of referral. They'll talk with families and other stakeholders in the school building to talk about why is this referral being made for the student and how can we best then plan for any necessary or the type of assessment that we can put forward for the student. We'll talk about the plethora of materials that they have available to them, but what they are really looking for is what path will tell us most or the best information about the student that we can then connect for them to help them both academically, socially, and long-term as they become college and career ready. So as a team, they really work to collect data across many different scenarios in order to then review that data and work as an entire IEP team that may include the many stakeholders depending on the student's reason for referral, but it always includes our parents, right? Special educators, general educators, our school psychologists, if this is an initial evaluation. And now they all come together to review data and work diligently to analyze the many sources of data that were collected. They think about how will the student best be supported? Do they meet eligibility requirements for one of our 13 disability classifications? And if so, they work together to develop an appropriate and inclusive high-quality IEP. And that's always what's in the forefront of their mind as they're looking at the data, is how can they connect what they learned about the student to what is appropriate to support them. So how do they do that? Well, it's all in a day's work or over 60 days, really. And this is a bit of an overview of that process, and we'll unpack each of them. Upon request, the team will determine with the parent, with the administration, is this evaluation appropriate, or is there another way that we can support this student throughout the process other than an evaluation? If it is through the evaluation process, then that is conducted by the school psychologist. The social worker will reach out to you as well. The IEP meeting is held to discuss the findings and if any special education services, if required, are then determined at that time. So let's go into each of those a little bit. So when we say that our school psychologists and social workers have access to many assessments in order to really create this comprehensive learner profile for the student, they do. And we've worked really hard to expand the availability of assessments for clinicians over the last few years. but there are some big buckets that they each fall into. And that's because the goal of a special education evaluation is to really measure the students' current levels, whether that relates to academic performance and learning characteristics, their social emotional performance, their health and physical development. And also we're looking to really look at that student's strengths and weaknesses in each of these different areas that you see here, right? That we can have access to assessments to support, whether that's through achievement, cognitive, specialized assessments. And all of this data that's collected is then organized and discussed at the IEP meeting. So school psychologists have access to a wide variety of tools. Those achievement tests that you see there, they're looking to measure proficiency in many different academic areas of the student. And that could be reading, writing, math, spelling. And it really looks at how much the student has acquired in terms of their own development and learning, which is a bit different than what you often hear about as well in our next box here, which is the cognitive testing and cognitive assessments that are looking more about ability and intellectual ability of the student. And this is where we really get some insight about the students, about some of their bigger areas that may be impacting their learning. So that can be something around the students' basic processing, their language development, some of their abilities that when it comes to problem solving. We learn more about students there. And our school psychologists compile all this together. Now, depending on the type of the referral, it can be an initial referral, an evaluation to determine if the student is still eligible. The clinician and school psychologist that's assigned to work with the student, they determine the appropriate assessments. And those also may include what we have access to now over the last few years, specialized assessments. And these are where we're looking to see an individual need by the team. What are some additional areas that may be impacting the student? Is that around something like executive functioning, a specific writing need that the student has, a print-based disability such as dyslexia? And also very exciting to know is that our school psychologists have access to a neuropsychological assessment, also known as the NEPSI, that does look at some of those neuropsychological functions of a student. So, and oftentimes this is a request or happens outside of the school building, but we're big believers that our school psychologists know your child the best, know the student the best. And this is a great place for this type of assessment to happen so that we can learn the most about the student. So that is something that a school psychologist may recommend to the team to conduct during this time. And we also have rating scales. Rating scales are sometimes connected to you and discussed with you through our school social workers. They look at some other skills that students have and that may be impacting their learning or social, emotionally. Some of these may be around developmental skills. We have scales around autism that look at the different types of behavior, including daily living skills of a student, and of course, some of their social and emotional learning as well. Often our rating scales are completed by staff at the school, the family. Sometimes we're involving the student in those rating scales. And they're a great way to learn more about the student through multiple stakeholders. Now, new and really exciting in 2024 is digital assessments that are hitting our schools and started. Rosa, I see you smiling and shaking. I don't know if you're as excited as we are, if you experienced this already, but we have started iPad administration of many of our assessments through the Pearson Publishing Digital Assessment Library for schools. So we have started already this year with great success in having over 40,000 different subtests of assessments completed since September already. Our school psychologists, our social workers have been trained, and this is a long time in the works to have this proposal and have this funded for our clinicians. And we know that it will only create equal access to assessment tools throughout the city. It's more impactful and interactive for students. And it also ensures that we're reducing errors and increasing efficiency for our own staff, right? And ensuring a greater productivity for them. No more hoarding of test materials or waiting to get them or delays in shipment, but now everything is available on an iPad, one for a school psychologist and one for a student. So definitely increasing some excitement here in 2024. Now, what about the role of the parent during the evaluation process? There's many times your information, your information about your own child is weaved throughout this time. So that may include the social history meeting, and that's with our school social worker. Our school social worker will meet with the family, and this is a very comprehensive interview and conversation with the family to learn about that student's history related to learning, social skills, development. It tracks right from birth through current to learn more about the student's development, any concerns that are related to the referral, or any suspected disability. So we really depend on good relationships between our social workers and parents during this time. This will be the first part of that initial referral process. And then updates happen throughout the years as the student, and if the student continues to be eligible. Like we were just talking about, the parent interviews, they happen a few different ways. Very formal ways through rating scales. Our social workers may contact you to complete and get some more formalized data through rating scales to learn more about the child. Or we also have our vocational assessments that learn more about a student's post-secondary goals, whether that relates to college or a career, or what their hopes and dreams are after they are done with us here as a senior in high school. So these are required for our students who are turning 12, and you'll work with the school team to do those. But oftentimes they even happen before 12 if appropriate. It's a great way to get student voice, parent voice, and learn more so we can align what we're doing in our school buildings with what the student wants to do afterwards. And then, of course, you're invited to the IEP meeting, and that's where all the information is shared with you and the rest of the stakeholders as well, the members. We participate in the development of the IEP at this time, and that includes developing goals for the student and really thinking through collaboratively what the appropriate services may be for that child at that time. And we encourage all of our parents to come informed and be really active participants at the IEP meeting. We've shared a couple of questions that you may think through at the end of this presentation to support you in attending that IEP meeting. So at that IEP meeting, now is the big time to connect the results of the evaluation that our teams have done with the recommendations of the IEP development. So after that student's evaluation, the IEP team makes that determination around students' eligibility. So this can't be a disability that's due to a limited language, right? It could be an acquisition. We have to really differentiate here. Is this a disability, a language disability, or a language acquisition struggle that the student may be having? Is this due to a lack of access in a certain subject, reading or writing or math? And does the student meet one of our 13 educational disability classifications? So our teams have a big job to get it right, and they're well equipped and well trained to do that. And what we ask is that everybody trust the data that's collected, right? Looking at the student holistically and big picture, but really thinking through and looking at those results of the comprehensive evaluation that tells us a lot about the student and helps us connect to any special education services that are needed. So any type of specialized instruction for the student, assistive technology, or ways that we support teachers so that they can then better support students. All of this is discussed at that IEP meeting. And also to bring up is oftentimes we're discussing at the time of reevaluation if we can consider declassification or a reduction of services for the student, because what was made right last year as we re-look at the IEP yearly, at least yearly. We're always considering, can we reduce any services for the students and provide them with greater access to general education environment, general education curriculum. So if the team is talking to you about considering declassification services, that's exciting, right? No longer being eligible for a school-based educational disability or service. So we always celebrate that for sure. And that happens for many of our students as well as appropriate. All right, so the continuum of services that we use to make recommendations for students is this great color-coded visual that you see here. Our IEP teams walk our families through a variety of services that are available, those that are appropriate, they're inclusive, and they meet the needs of the student. They may, like I said, sound familiar to you, but they are all color-coded in a very specific way to really describe the broad and multifaceted array of special education services that we offer here in New York City. So we look at the needs of the student and start writing from the beginning. How can we support the student in our most inclusive general education environment? Is that through something like ICT, integrated co-teaching, or special education teacher support services sets that happens inside of that general education classroom? So it's important that to remember there are many different service delivery options, but our biggest point here and our biggest reminder that we have for our teams, for our families who participate in our IEP meetings, is that we always want to think toward that bottom, right? How can we support the student in general education? And as we move up the continuum, which may be necessary for students, depending on their needs, always trying to remain as most inclusive as we can for them. We think about intensity and we think about restrictiveness and what that offers for the student. So we always want full participation as much as possible. And there's fluidity, right, between these different services that are here. This is not a one size fits all. It's really a menu, right? We don't bucket our students into a certain recommendation that's here, but we really encourage all of our teams, and we do a lot of training and data review to think through how are we supporting students in multiple different areas. So our continuum, well, I could talk for probably 6 hours about each of these services, is available and linked at the end here if you have questions, more questions about some of these different services and how they support students throughout the school day. But do know that our teams really do engage in ongoing conversations around how to best support a student, right? And through one or more of these services. And that can include what we see along the side here, related services as well, right? Always our biggest goal is promoting that independence for the student as much as possible. So many of our goals and guiding principles I previously discussed with you. But let's talk just quickly about restrictiveness and intensity that I had mentioned there. This is another graphic that's connected to our continuum, and it's something that we consider when we're making a recommendation for a student, whether it's a program or a service. We think both about restrictiveness and intensity. So restrictiveness is shown on the horizontal axis, and then intensity is going up and down on our vertical axis. And these are not to be looked at as absolutes or, actual intensity, but a couple of different examples of how we work towards being more restrictive or less restrictive in our recommendations. So as we are moving to the right, we're becoming less restrictive, right? We're giving more access to general education peers. Our ratio is greater between special education teacher and student. The location of our services is definitely less restrictive as well. And in the bottom left corner, we are both less intense and restrictive because of those specific access that you could see here, the different general education peers that the student is amongst in their class. And then as we do move to the right, it becomes more restrictive, right? Less access to general education peers, more intensive student to teacher ratio. And we're always striving for the least intense and the least restrictive recommendation in order to best benefit the student. So needs may be met not only through a special education evaluation, and a lot of times we do see recommendations or requests for referrals that may not necessarily be required for the student, right? They may not be necessary because it may not be due to a disability. It may be a need for further and more intensified instruction that's not related to a disability. So know that the team will talk to you as a parent and with an administrator about how to match that individual student's need to the type of teaching that will be best for them. They may meet with you and ask for your permission and your agreement and in making a plan that will support the student prior to going through with an evaluation, to give it some time for the student to have access to quality instruction that happens here at the bottom for all students, but also at a tier 2 smaller group level for the student in order to see if more and further and specialized instruction for that student at this level will make a difference prior to the evaluation. So we often see this being successful for students, and it helps ensure that we are really making the right decisions for students, in more instruction versus specialized instruction that's connected to a student's disability. So I mentioned some questions that you may consider when you come to the IEP meeting and things you may think of before you even come to the IEP meeting. And we really want to know, right? What do you hope for your child? What do you want for them, not just now, but long term? So we can consider what is the best way to get them there. What do you think about intensity and restrictiveness of recommendations for the child? Because we want to promote their access to, as much as possible, their peers without IEPs, right? In their classes and the types of schools we're recommending for them, in the type of assessments that we do and recommend for the student as well. And we also ask you at home, right? And what do you see? If the student has a disability right now, say it's a learning disability, how does that manifest in your own child? How does that impact them at home? And how does the recommendation and current service that they have now align to what's happening there? Because at the end, we do want to know, right? Is the same level of service and program actually needed for your child throughout the school day? Or can we consider something that may be more appropriate for them? So if at the end of all of this, you do feel, right, that an evaluation is required for the student, or that, all the options have been used up and we're ready to move forward with an evaluation, we go forward with many different ways to make a referral, and your school-based support teams, administration are always there to welcome your concerns and see what is the best route for the student. So do always feel that your right is there to make your recommendation or your request for an evaluation, because we have amazing, really well-qualified clinicians at our school building ready to meet those requests and support children throughout the city. So thank you for a quick 20 minutes to go through the work that we do, and we'll stick around a bit if there's any questions.
You finished right on time.
Look at that.
Right on time. You did it. Thank you
I was
so
trying.
much. Special education, IEP, that is very, very dear to my heart. My daughter
Okay.
is autistic
Ah,
in the 8th grade and thriving. She is thriving, independent. I can talk all day too. Thank you so much. Please share all this wonderful information, beautiful slides, so we can share it with everyone. Everyone
absolutely.
is going to learn and how to advocate for the children too. You know what I mean?
That's
Thank
right.
you. Thank you so much.
We do talk
Randy,
to
do
our
you have any
psychologists that they
questions?
are our advocates, right? They are their voice. So thank you.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Randy, do you have any questions for the presenter by any chance?
Um, I guess we could put questions in the chat just to be respectful of everyone's time, because I know our next presenter's here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, if you have any questions for the presenter that just finished presenting, please write it in the chat. We'll hopefully if there's a little bit chance at the end, we'll go back. Or if anything, we'll send them to you and then you can bring it back to us and then we can send it to all constituents.
And these, I'm the next presenter, but these are my dear colleagues, Lauren and Arwina. So if you need a few extra minutes, it's no problem.
You're so kind. Thank you so much. We also thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, yes, please write it in the chat and we are going to go to the next presenter, which is you.
Wonderful. Your agenda management is so skillful. My name is Andy Corso. My pronouns are she and her. I work in the special education office with the amazing Lauren and Arwina as wonderful colleagues. And it looks like there is a question coming in. And so I'll pause for just a moment in case it makes sense to answer that one. And then I can't wait to share the presentation on MDR and would love to answer the questions you raised, but also hear any concerns that folks are having around that. Lauren, Arwina, is this a quick question to answer or do you want me to?
It's a little nuanced, so we'll answer in the chat.
Okay, wonderful,
Thanks,
wonderful. I
Andy.
wanted to
Yep.
double check and see what the status of that one was. How come all the best questions are nuanced? That's what I appreciate. So that's what we have there. So I'm thrilled to be here with you today to talk about discipline, students with disabilities and IEPs, and the process called MDR. I'm going to share a lot of policy information and references that are connected to the core questions you asked. And I also just want to start with the intention that I know sometimes these questions come from something that has not gone well, a situation where a student did not have the process followed, or that you're concerned about, did the student get the support they needed? So please do know, I'm going to share the policy with you, but if there are specific cases you're concerned about or questions that come up, I'm also just here to listen and really take back any information about what you're hearing and what you're seeing to make sure that we're doing everything as we need to be doing for our students with disabilities, especially when it comes to school safety and discipline. So I'm absolutely here for that, and get ready for a lot of policy, but I will absolutely share all these slides with you as well. And so you will get a copy of the slides also. All right. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay? Wonderful, wonderful. And so MDR, which we use as an abbreviation, is called Manifestation Determination Review. And we'll talk more about when this comes in to the discipline and safety process. But in simple terms, MDR is at a point in time saying, just a second, did this behavior challenge or discipline incident happen because of the student's disability or because of a failure to implement the IEP? There's a specific protection and review that happens to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to support our students with disabilities. So let's take a look. The first thing I want to orient you to are some primary resources. So when I talk about MDR, I'll refer to these resources throughout. The first resource is Chancellors Regulation A443. And after I introduce each of them, I'll show them on the screen, but these links are live that you're able to take a look at. The second core resource is the citywide behavioral expectations to support student learning, also known as the discipline code. And that has the best practices for New York City public schools. That's broken up into K through 5 and 6 to 12. The third core resource reference document is the Special Education Standard Operating Procedures Manual, which we call the SOPM. And then finally, we have a link to the MDR worksheet for the actual MDR meeting, which asks some important questions to consider during an MDR meeting. So these are our big core resources that I'm going to refer to a lot, that I'm pulling policy language from, that you might want to refer back to. I'm just going to click on them to show you what the resources look like, and then I'll go right into answering your questions. So if you take a look here, my computer cooperates. Then this is Chancellor's Regulation A43, and I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. And this, what it does, I'm going quick, I just want to orient you to it. This is all about discipline procedures. And so especially when your first question, I'll be referring to this. And here it has a specific section on individuals with disability and protections that are involved. If you take a look here, your first question had to do with principal suspension versus teacher removal. All of that is outlined in Chancellor's Regulation A443. So I just wanted to show you what that document looks like. It has a lot of valuable information in it. And this document is for all students, and there are special protections for students with disabilities. Then you may be familiar with also, just a second. Let's go back here with the citywide behavioral expectations. And what I love about this document that I just want to show for you for a second, and I know I'm going quickly just to orient you, is this document really has a lot on supports and interventions. And so here, when I get to your supports and interventions question, this is a great resource for that. And again, this is the guidance document for all students in New York City Public School staff and schools. And here it has all of these supports and interventions along with definitions and descriptions of them. So we'll refer to this when we get to question number 3 that you asked as well. And then finally, the last thing I'll show you here is the SOPM. And if you haven't had a chance to see this yet, this is a very important resource. Are you all seeing the SOPM on my screen or not yet? Great. And so this resource is kind of live and linkable because it's always updated. And so when you click on this, I took you right to the place on MDRs, but there's a ton of valuable information that I'll be referring to in the SOPM. So this is where all the information I'm going to share came from the core documents. And these are places you can have much more information about what the expectations and policies are. So let's dive right into your great questions. Question number 1. What is the rubric for teacher removal, principal suspension, and superintendent suspension for IEP students who have behavior issues? So again, we're going to zoom all the way out. The Chancellor's Regulation that I shared with you has the procedures and the rubric for all students, regardless of disciplinary IEP status and disability status, and has a specific section for each one of these. And students with IEPs at 504 plans have specific protections underneath federal and state law and our policy, which I'll get into a little bit later in the presentation. It has to do with MDR. And then take a look at this last piece here. In this, please know that the expectation is that every reasonable effort be made to correct student behavior through interventions and supports. So we don't want to go to removal. The whole thrust of this is that we want to take supports and interventions so we do not get to a removal. So these are the core pieces in the SOPM and the Chancellor's Regulation around teacher removal, principal suspension, and superintendent suspension. All right, so let's talk about the protections a bit. So this again is under question number 1 that you asked me. And these are the protections that are there specifically for our students with 504 plans and IEPs. I'm going to give you just 30 seconds to read this screen and then I'll unpack it a little bit. Okay, so the MDR is based on a couple of factors. One is how often has the student actually had a removal? So 10 days is what we're looking for. That's when the MDR process is triggered. And it's called a disciplinary change in placement. That's what we mean by a removal. So those are the criteria for it. How do we make sure that we're tracking that timeline? And this is the system called SOHO. And so anytime there's a teacher removal, a principal suspension, or a superintendent suspension, that must be entered at SOHO if there's a decision to remove the student. And then the clock starts in terms of how often has this happened for how many days. And that's how we know that the MDR will be scheduled and held if we meet the criteria, which is the number of days, more than 10 consecutive days or 10 cumulative days. There's also criteria called pattern of removals, but just in simple language, we're looking at, is this about the same topic? Like, is this about the same issue? And I'll get to that in one of your questions as well. So these are the policy answers for question number 1. What's the rubric for teacher removal, principal suspension, and superintendent suspension for IEP students with behavior issues? I'm going to move to question 2. So what support is given to students who have been given a superintendent suspension to ensure instruction time is not interrupted? This is hugely important. And so, oh, I see someone just joined the waiting room. So it is an expectation that schools are required to provide appropriate supports to students during their suspension and when they return to their home school, academically and behavioral supports, both. Particularly for IEP students. So that's for any suspension, but particularly for students with IEPs, the supports are memorialized on something called a suspension plan, which is actually co-created by the homeschool and the suspension site. So they have to work together on that. There's a little difference based on grade level here about how that plays out. For middle and high school students, if it's a superintendent support suspension, they serve the suspension at something called an alternate learning center. For our younger students or elementary students, it's like a buddy school or neighboring school where they'd be serving their suspension. And please note that those, whatever the location is, they collaborate with the home school to make sure that there's a continuity of support. The third point here about supports, look at paragraph 3 for me. Students with IEPs must be provided with special education services during any suspension so that they can continue to work toward their IEP goals. So that is another piece. And again, the goal is to prepare students to return to the homeschool. The homeschool must continue supports. Again, we're looking at supports and interventions. So those are the policies and guidelines for support during a suspension. This is both in the SOPM and in the citywide behavior expectations. For each of these slides at the top, I put the reference, which core document I pulled the policy from for you to be able to refer to. Let's take a look at question 3. So what supports are given to a child before being suspended? And this is the most important work. So there's a couple of important pieces here. I'd love you just to read the statement and then we'll look at it in more depth. So please note, it is an expectation that supports and interventions are used for all students and also for students with IEPs or 504 plans so that we are having a comprehensive approach that improves student behavior, lowers the incidence of repeated behavior, and then has a positive school environment for learning. Just because this is such an important one, I am going to go straight to the source document on this so that we can actually look at the descriptions of some of the supports that are there. And please, I also just want to highlight here, and I see some things in the chat. Oh, I apologize. I've not been tracking the chat team. Oh, okay, good. Good. Awesome. Okay. So let's take a look at the actual source document for this one. So I'm going to go back to our source page. I'm going to click on behavioral expectations because this is the source document for that one. And then can you see my document? Is it showing now or is it still my slideshow showing? You cannot see the document. It's still my slideshow. Okay, no problem. That's what I've got. That's why I always check. Success? Not yet.
You might have to stop sharing and then reshare.
Reshare. I remember reshare. Perfect. Perfect. Rosa, your signals are so helpful. Like the thumbs up, thumbs down, expressive face is really working for me as a Zoom presenter right now. So let's just spend a little time with this document. So here are all of the different supports. We're going to talk more about the FBA and the BIP in your question number 4. And those are specific strategies to provide support around challenging behaviors. But there are all of these other pieces as well. And what I love about our citywide behavior guidance is that if we take a look and we move down, they actually have definitions and links for all of these types of supports. And I do think that this is a helpful resource for schools to connect back into and say, all right, so what is collaborative problem solving? The trained school staff member can use this process to identify the antecedent or the behaviors that happen before the precipitating behavior, articulate adult concerns, and then engage the student in a collaborative process to address underlying reasons for the behavior and decide on a plan of action. So that's just A. And then there are all of these different pieces as well. Mentoring, counseling, PBIS, specific counseling services, CBO, counseling about bullying, intimidation, harassment, really looking at mental health support services. So I think that this core document is a very rich source, especially if a school is feeling a little stuck, to really come back to this core expectation that supports and resources should be customized for the student. And we have a wide variety of research-based techniques that can absolutely be leveraged here to support the students who are experiencing challenging behavior. So that's something I commend to you and to all schools as they're just a reground in that core resource. I'll go back to my slides. And of course, I want to leave time if there are questions, but I want to tackle our 4th question. So here we go. Okay, you should be seeing my slide again. Perfect. And again, that's the core resource that I just looked at here. All right, and now I'm going to question number 4. This is such a helpful question. Can children be suspended for the same reason? And what supports are given to the child to prevent the occurrence from happening again? I love the thinking of this question to really say, if it's happening again, the support we provided did not work. So what are we doing to actually be lifting up and moving that? There are specific requirements about this. And one thing that we focus on here is something called the FBA and BIP, functional behavior analysis and behavior intervention plan. And I will show you some specific resources in this, but first I want to look at the policy. Children can be suspended again for the same reason, but if they are, there are specific expectations, especially in the MDR process. So let's look at 3 different cases here. So what if the MDR team, this is number 1, says, you know what? This challenging behavior was a result of this child's disability. Actually, this is related core to the child's disability. In that case, the suspension does not happen in that particular case unless it's a very extreme exception. Weapons, there are specific exceptions for that. But then take a look at what happens here. If it is a manifestation disability, a functional behavior assessment must be conducted, and if appropriate, a behavior intervention plan, BIP, must be developed and implemented immediately. If it doesn't exist, it must be. If it has already been conducted, then it has to be reviewed. So what's not working with this functional behavior plan or the BIP, and modified as needed. So we start with the functional behavior analysis and then move to the BIP. And take a look at number 3. This is something that's also carefully considered in the MDR. Is the IEP being fully implemented, or are we not providing some of the supports and services? If there's any part of the IEP that's not being fully implemented, steps must be taken immediately to remedy deficiencies. So those are the kind of policy steps if we're in this situation to prevent reoccurrence, if it is a manifestation of a disability. Let's look at 2 other cases, and then I'll talk about FBA and BIP for a minute. So what if it's determined the student's behavior was not a manifestation of their disability? Removal may happen, so there may be a suspension, but there also need to be some extra steps taken here. So let's say they said, you know what, this was not a manifestation of the disability. Still, at the next IEP meeting, the IEP team must determine whether they should do an FBA or to develop or review a BIP. So we still need to bring those in, even if it was not a manifestation of disability. And if an FBA is required, one must be conducted, and a decision must be made about whether the student requires a BIP. If it's required, it must be developed and implemented immediately. If they already have a BIP, it must be reviewed. So again, this is even if it was not a manifestation. Because the student has an IEP, at the next IEP meeting, they need to go through these considerations because of the fact that there was a challenging behavior that resulted in as removal. All right, and then finally, look at number 3. Because we take repeated behavior so seriously, like something's not working here. If you look at number 3, regardless of number 1 or 2, if it's found to be a manifestation or not, if any member of an MDR team says, you know what, we need to change our support of the student, either educational services or related services, or maybe we need to reevaluate through assessments for the student, then that member must request reevaluation or IEP review immediately following the completion of the MDR. So this is another moment to step back and say, okay, because this happened, does that cause us to say, just a second, should we be considering different types of support? The last thing I'd love to do, and then I want to make sure that we open it up, is actually look at the SOPM for what is the FBA in BIP. So I'm going to go back to our core documents, and these are hugely helpful tools. I know we have so many acronyms, and it's just like FBA, BIP, there's SOPM, there's so many pieces, but I do want to just show you the FBA and BIP part of the SOPM because I think these are hugely valuable tools. So just to show you in the resources. So I'm going to stop share again because I'm going to a new document. And again, the core document I'm going to is the core document of the SOPM on this one. Just a second, and I'm pulling it up for you. I see a new message coming in. Okay, so let me share my screen and then I'll take questions. Okay, you should be seeing the SOPM now. So we're back in the SOPM document. And I just want you, I just think this is a really helpful section to anchor in for schools. And I want to just give a plug for a functional behavior assessment. Take a minute and just read the paragraph you can see under overview, functional behavior assessment. Then I'm going to lift up a few key points, and then I'm happy to answer additional questions. All right, team, I'm gonna make the screen a little bit smaller so you can see everything at once. There we go. I know you probably haven't read the whole page, but the first paragraph was the most important. So I think what I'd like to close here is what we know in the special education office and what we know as good educators is that behavior is communication. Behavior is actually communicating a need, something the student is trying to get or trying to avoid. That's what behavior is, it's communication. And one of the things I love about a functional behavior assessment is they're really trying to get at what is the function of this behavior? What is the student trying to communicate with this behavior? Are they trying to communicate, actually, I need more of something or I need less of something? And that's what this tool, when done with integrity, is really able to do, is get at what is the underlying communication so that that underlying need can be met and we're able to move forward and support the student to be in a really positive learning environment for themselves and their peers. I'm going to close here with the presentation. I'll be sending all these slides to you, of course. But would love to just, I know we're in our last minute, but would love to pause. I'm happy to answer questions. I also just want to acknowledge, while I've shared all of this policy, and it's important that we know the policy, it doesn't always go well. And so if there are particular students you're concerned about, if there's a case you're like, Andy, thank you for sharing the policy, but that's not what happened here, then please do let us know. One thing I wanted today is to make sure we all have the same common language, but this is an area of active support, something we care deeply about. So we certainly want to know about concerns you're hearing or experiencing. And we know there are students for whom these policies are not yet working the way that they should.
Thank you, Andy. This was very, very heavy in detail.
Yeah,
I was like literally looking at your face and looking at Randy because me and Randy were making the same faces.
yeah,
And I'm like, oof, it's hitting. It's going
yeah,
straight to my heart because
yeah.
like see it in different districts.
That's right.
And it's like, I needed like a moment to breathe.
I feel that.
Um, thank you for the very heavy presentation.
Yeah,
Um, Hopefully we don't have any of that, that everything is well, that everyone is happy, that the children, our students have everything that they need, that they have the best quality resources, education in order to succeed. And that's why we're all here.
yes,
That is our main mission, to support, to guide every single parent, guardian, so they can advocate for their
that's right.
children.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
so that's why I do what I do,
That's
and
right.
that's why we're all here.
That's right.
Thank you. Please send us those slides, and we can send it
Absolutely.
to everyone. And
Absolutely.
truly, thank you for joining us tonight. I mean, today. Oh
Absolutely.
gosh, so many meetings.
Well, and just thank you for acknowledging the heaviness, both of the density of the policy. It's like, it's a lot, but also the lived experience of students and families. And so I'm just grateful for the way that you hold space for so many families, and also try to make this information more accessible, because sometimes like the documents are dense and it's like where do all these things live, and this doesn't feel right, but like how do I document that? Like there's just a lot of layers to it. So I think that your leadership and this whole advisory council really provides a pivotal role in making that bridge, and making more accessible the rights and responsibilities that we have for students. So deep appreciation for that. My name is Andy Corso. I'm a Corso 6 in the New York City Public Schools. I'm grateful for this time with you. And I will absolutely be sharing the presentation deck. And thank you again.
Thank you for breaking it down also. It was a lot of information and you explaining it felt better, right? But it was
It's
heavy.
still a lot. It's
It's still
still
a
a
lot.
lot. There's no two ways about it. I don't want to keep you. I know you have your next presenter on deck to go through the next part of the work. So again, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for the invitation, and deeply grateful for your work.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Um, is Stephanie Remigio going to also present
No,
or
she could not be here today. So I'm presenting for us today.
both? No problem. You did it. Thank you so much. Please send us the information.
Will do.
And thank you for your time.
Will do.
Now we have Office of Food and Nutrition Services. Nelson is
Hi.
here.
Good
Nicola is
morning.
here.
Hi.
Good
And we're
morning,
missing
folks.
someone. Christopher, no?
Well, we'll be representing Chris today. So
Absolutely.
I
Teamwork.
just want to go ahead and thank you all for having us today. Chris and I have had the pleasure of presenting to this group several times. We provided an overview of our program many times, and more often than not, questions will always come up about the specifications of our menus, how are they built? We'll get asked questions about menu accommodations, and we always wish we had Nicole present to answer those questions because that is her area of expertise. We can speak on it rather freely and provide solid details, but not in-depth details like she can. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to provide a in-depth analysis and look at our menu creating, our the nutritional and the guidelines behind creating the menu, and to answer any specific menu questions that you guys might have or that might come up due to the presentation. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to my colleague, Nicole Bonica, who is our menu coordinator for our menu management department.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me on this call. So again, my name is Nicole Bonica, menu coordinator here in Menu Management Department. I'm also a registered dietitian and certified dietetic nutritionist with the organization. And I'm going to go over my presentation, which kind of answers some of those questions that Nelson was referring to. So some of the things that we're going to discuss today is our food standards, what drives our menus, a little bit about how we do accommodations, plastic-free lunch day collaboration, which is part of our menu now, part of our 3-week cycle, and cafeteria enhancement, and then a separate menus, which are our halal menus. Okay. So our mission is to equitably serve New York City students with healthy and delicious meals that enhance their educational experience, reflect their voice, and nourish them into adulthood. And we talk about that mission all the time, especially when we have student taste testing. We discuss how those students drive our menu products and our recipe choices. And it's really important that our students' voices are heard. So we currently have 36 menus with about 500 plus recipes. We actually did the count just 2 days ago. We actually have 515 recipes. We're serving over 1,800 schools in all different sorts of varieties, whether it's an express menu or a regular hotline menu. With over 1 million students enrolled in the Department of Education, we're serving about 850,000 meals per day. And who supports that work is our partners. And we have about 50 plus partners that we orchestrate all of this with. So the way that our menus are created and the way that our products are procured, we have 3 bodies that we really look at. One is New York City food standards. So we have to follow all the governing rules that New York City sets for our food standards. Then we have the USDA standards, which I'll get into a little bit. And then we have our own internal standards. So some of our own internal standards, and I start with OFNS first, just because it's one of the most, it's us, it's who we are, and we drive our own products. So, for example, we have, when we are creating specifications and outreaches and solicitations, we like to call out certain identifying things that we want our products to have. So for example, our chicken, we call out that where chicken is no antibiotics ever. This is an NAE chicken, or it's also known as ABF, which is antibiotic free. So we want to make sure that when we're purchasing chicken, for example, that our chickens are humanely raised. We want that when they have their life on this earth, that is a good life. That the breading on that chicken is whole grain. It has to meet a 51% whole grain criteria, which means that there's at least 2 grams of fiber per breading. That we have no fillers. So many years ago, products used to contain soy fillers. So we've now are calling out strictly that there's no fillers, because now what we've realized is that, okay, we've made that distinction, no soy fillers, but now they're filling with other things like oat fillers and different kinds of extenders. So we want to make sure that our students are receiving a whole natural meat, and that nothing else, that they're getting a natural meat. We also ensure that there's no deep fat frying, because fat increases the fat of the content of the food. Other things that we look at, so for example, turkey, when we're procuring turkey, we're calling out that the turkey is CRAW, which is CRAU, which is it's responsible antibiotic use. So turkeys actually live a little bit longer than chickens. So chickens can have NAE, but turkeys cannot. So turkeys will have some antibiotics. So we call out CRAW for turkeys. Other things that we call out on part of our specifications is that we like to have local. So on all our specifications, we say that product to be local preferred. We can't mandate it, but we say preferred. So that is to ensure sustainability, to ensure environmental health, to that we're lowering our food miles for these products, and that we're also that we're doing business with New York State. We just had a local product with a local grant. And so you see all these things on our items that are highlighted in green, they're going to be highlighted in green because they're local. Also, we have an extensive prohibited ingredient list, more than any other educational food service in the country. We have almost 80 items on our prohibited ingredient list. We are almost in line with Whole Foods. This prohibited ingredient list actually started in the 1960s when food service directors saw that there might be potential harm in color additives and flavor enhancers. And then it's just grown from there. We actually have worked with a group called the Lifetime Foundation that has helped us support our prohibited ingredient list. So 80 items. So when we look at our products, we have to evaluate our products on all these standards, including the prohibited ingredients, to ensure that our students are getting the most natural product and that the product is not enhanced to mask, or that the flavors are not like fake. We want them to taste the food for the food the way it's supposed to be, you know? Okay, so then we have the New York City food standards. So New York City governs what we do for the most part. Also, USDA governs what we do. So for the food standards that are derived from New York City, this is helping us with our purchasing framework. So our foods all align with the purchasing framework of New York City. So for example, our yogurt can have has an added sugar per ounce. So for 4 ounces, we can have no more than 7 grams of added sugar. For our cheese, we can have no more than 350 milligrams of sodium for our cheese. For sliced bread, for example, 180 milligrams of sodium. So people question, why does our food taste a certain way? Why are some things more brown than others? It's because we're required to have fiber, which fiber is a little more brown than if you were just to do a plain white slice. Or why does it taste a little bland? Because sodium gives flavor. We're prohibited on sodium, then we have to find other ways to enhance that product. So we do our best with the restrictions that we have, and we do wonders with the restrictions that we have. And we've really learned to be creative and think outside of the box to make our food taste delicious and be healthy with all these standards that are in place. New York City also has, as part two, I want to say, is the agency population specific standards. For the most part, I want to say that agencies follow this. We do, but we're more following the USDA meal pattern standards, and that really governs how we make our menus. And then there's things such as what we do follow is, for example, New York City requires us to offer a plant-based meal option once a week. So we have our plant-powered Fridays. They also require us to serve cheese no more than twice a week. So we have our meatless Mondays, and then you might see a mozzarella stick during that week. We've also been governed to reduce processed meats. And we have learned all about the different ways that to create a processed meat. So things such as celery seed and rosemary extract, which we learned creates a processed meat. And so now all our turkey products, chicken products, beef products are now not considered a processed meat because we've fully moved away from that. Okay, so the US, so after we do an outreach and we review samples of products, then we can determine whether these products, if they meet all our criteria and we say that they've passed our eyes and our paperwork. We actually have students coming up here right now, if you've heard them. Then we request samples. These samples then go through our student taste testing. So we have student taste testing in headquarters on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So the students will get a couple of samples to review. We ask them for a thumbs up, thumbs down, and we ask for some basic, simple comments so that we can go back to a manufacturer. If this product it doesn't pass student taste testing, which they need a 75% passing grade. So if it doesn't meet that student passing grade, we go back to the company and we say, you know, the students like this product, but they thought it was too peppery, or they thought it was too saucy, or they felt that it was too bland. Can you know, change the formula somehow? And then we'll retest that product again. Today, we're actually doing cereals because we got some new cereals in manicotti. We're doing a katsu. Which is a Japanese dipping sauce. So these are some of the things that our students will be taste testing today. Other things that we're doing to get feedback is we're doing cycle menu surveys, and those surveys, parents or students can respond to those surveys. Those are posted on the New York City Public Schools website. They just scan the QR code, and then we get feedback from our surveys. So those surveys also drive how we create our menus. So if something isn't liked and we see that there's very little interest in a product, we'll say, you know what, let's table this for another time. Or will look at a recipe and say, well, what didn't they like about it? We'll evaluate how it was served. We'll evaluate the recipe again for taste, for ease of preparation. All these things drive how we do business. We actually have a citywide student sampling coming up next week, which is for our Egyptian chickpeas. That way we can get an idea of how this is going to be well received in our schools. And then I'll go to the food service survey. It's an online parent feedback survey. So some of our menu highlights, all citywide menus feature meatless Mondays and plant-powered Fridays. And this is to ensure that our students are receiving something other than chicken, that we're exposing them to different culturally diverse foods. And we know that having a plant-based entree for the day is doing wonders for not only for our health, but for our planetary health as well. Uh, all our menu items feature either a V or a VE, one if they're vegetarian and two, or if they're vegan. So this is to help identify how those items are designated, but it's also great for students who have dietary preferences or allergens. So any item that does have a VE next to it is dairy-free and egg-free. So that really helps students who have either dairy or egg allergies help drive what they can have on those menus. Again, all the items highlighted in green are locally sourced. So you'll see those items in our recipes or on the menu, anything highlighted in green, and that is from a local grant that we just started initiating and getting those products for actually this year. So we have that local grant going all the way through the end of this year and I believe into next year. So some of those things would be like the corn on the cob that we just had, butternut squash. Some of our onions are from New York State. Some of the fresh squash that we have is from New York State. So it's really great to be able to really uplift New York State as part of our meal program. We also have fresh seasonal fruit and vegetables offered for breakfast and lunch, and no juice. No, that's something that we did away with about 2 to 3 years ago now. Juice is nice, but juice doesn't have the nutrients. It's just not nutrient dense, and it doesn't offer anything that a fresh whole fruit offers. All our products, if they are grain, they're whole grain rich. Our products are required to meet the whole grain rich criteria that's set forth by USDA. High fiber, low fat, and our limited sugars. So as of 2027, we are required to report on our added sugars. So this is something that now we are taking this very seriously and reevaluating how our recipes are made, the sugar content of our recipes, the sugar content of our weekly nutritionals to make sure that we're meeting the USDA requirement for added sugars for meal pattern. I can't remember the last time we had pork on the menu. All our menus are pork free, and this is, I think, more than 5 years. All chicken is certified no antibiotics ever. It's humanely raised. Again, our turkey is craw, which is certified responsible antibiotic use. And again, no processed meats. So you won't see like turkey, sliced turkey, bologna. You won't see that on our menus. So our lunch daily offerings is our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, our hummus crackers, hot and cold cheese sandwiches, which you'll see Monday through Friday. Our Southwest burrito is only offered on Fridays, and we are also adding a new item to our Friday daily offering, which is a rainbow wrap. So that is hummus served with different sorts of vegetables all in a wrap. And it's really to help uplift and to increase that participation on Fridays, Plant Powered Fridays. And then your tuna sandwiches you'll see only on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, because that's when we can offer meat or fish. So menu accommodations, I do menu accommodations, dietary restrictions with another registered dietitian in my office. So there are students citywide that may have celiac, you know, disease or peanut butter allergy or, there are students with 10 allergies sometimes. So what we do is we have to create specific menus for them. And we do that through a 504 process. I'm going to go into food allergies first. So if a student has food allergies, parents can reach out to me. They could reach out to OFNS Meal Accommodations and request the labels or request allergen lists. And we will provide those allergen lists. So if they have a question about anything on our menus, sometimes they ask about sesame, we'll provide those allergen lists of the foods that contain those allergens. And we can also provide the labels. For dietary medical accommodations, again, if it's celiacs or students with anaphylaxis, students with a multitude of different allergies that we cannot make this accommodation on the service line, we would recommend going through the 504 process, or if the student has an IEP, and we will create a specialized menu for those students. And then we have the alternative milk options. So that is soy milk or lactose-free milk. And so that requires a doctor's note in order to provide that alternative milk option. We are currently looking at other alternative milk options, such as an almond milk or an oat milk. But as of right now, soy milk and lactose-free milk are the only two milks that meet the nutritional content of cow's milk. We also have part of our regular menu plastic-free lunch day. And this is to help reduce the amount of plastic waste that is created as just a part of food services. So this initiative was created with cafeteria culture, the Urban School Food Alliance. It came out of a school in District 15 where the students were, really ambitious about the plastic waste that was created as part of the food service program, and they wanted to do something for their planetary health. And so this initiative stemmed from that. It's the roots of that. We wanted to hear that, we wanted to tell our students that we heard their voice and that we support their ambitions to care for our environment and care for our planet. And so we introduced this plastic-free lunch day. It started as a once a month initiative where we had just, a simple menu that was once a week, once a month, and now it's become part of our regular 3-week cycle menu. So it went from just doing plastic free 10 times a year. So now we're almost implementing it 20 times a year. So we've doubled, and we've learned to work with new recipes so that this plastic-free lunch day isn't just like something different as part of the menu, but it now is it's seamless with our menu. It's amazing. And then we have cafeteria enhancement experience. So these are really found in our junior high schools, in our high schools, and it's a different type of service model. It's a more mature service model, more adult. Students can just take what they want and go, as long as we make sure that they're taking the reimbursable meal. But it gives a sense of more autonomy for these students. So we have pillars of our CEE program. The menu that they follow was called a food court menu because that's the style of service that they're having. So it's enhancing student choice. So all the options are kind of laid out in these cabinets and they can take what they want. it's a faster service because there's no waiting on lines really. It's just taking and going, which students love because that gives them more time to hang out, for for lunch period. It's a modern style of a cafeteria. So the way it works is that the cafeteria enhancement starts, I think, on a Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. So students leave school on Friday, they see the cafeteria how it was left, and then Monday morning there's a brand new cafeteria with brand new furniture, and it's the more of a congregate kind of eating style with round tables. And they're very nice. They're colorful. And it makes it fun and enjoyable and welcoming. And that's the part of the list is the new furniture, and it supports participation. It supports the students in our program, and it gets kids eating our food, which is really important. Lastly, I'm going to talk about halal menus. We have about 110 certified halal sites throughout the city. These schools are evaluated by the imams, so they have to pass their imam inspection in order to be certified halal. This request to have a halal school is through, I guess, parent community, through the principal. Principals then request halal schools through the district supervisor for OFNS. We evaluate all our products to be halal. So we send labels to the imams to review. We have about, at this time, almost 500 products approved halal. We have 3 products that are certified halal, which means that they actually carry the halal symbols. So this is a chicken patty, these are chicken tenders, and a Jamaican beef patty. All the items on the halal menu will be reviewed, all our recipes are reviewed, and everything has an H next to it to ensure so that we're advertising properly that these items are halal. I think that's it. Any questions for me?
That was a lot. I know a lot of people have thousand or maybe a million questions. We're a little bit, over time. So thank you so much for all the information, which, especially with the enhancement of the cafeterias. I love that. Hopefully every single of our schools will have it. It also creates independency in our students. Um, Thank you both. And I will go to Faith now because we're a little bit over time.
Perfect. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dr. Christina, all yours.
I am so excited to be here. Good morning, everyone. First, I want to start with you hit the ground running, you new board with just all these wonderful pieces of information and presenters. So I'm really glad to see that the work continues always at CPAC. It is a pleasure to see you, Chair, and to welcome you to the space as Chair. Congratulations. And the space is better because you are leading it alongside of some of our veteran folks. So I'm really excited for all of our new friends and all of the folks that have just continuously been here to support CPAC. I am going to make it quick because I know that the Chancellor is up next and I don't want to follow her. So I'm going to go really fast. I'm gonna start with, we have FACES working on a bunch of things, but we have a resource fair this coming Saturday. We're calling it Harvesting Connections. So it's a great opportunity from 10 to 2 down here at Bertram, the school right next to One Police Plaza, but also right near Tweed. To just really get as much information around a whole plethora of things, you name it, they are there, from immigration to school stuff to language and we've made it as accessible as possible. So not speaking the language should not be a barrier. We will have folks there available as you are going through the different tables. So we are excited to welcome everyone to this fair. We have launched our second round of ambassador program. Everyone really wanted to be in it. Everyone didn't get the emails. We launched it on the 6th. We're only in week 2. I will share the link of the ambassadors as well so that you can continue to sign up. We have the first 2 sessions already recorded, so we will be more than happy to share those so that you can show up ready. Again, those are accessible to everyone. We have all languages available during interpretation while you are live in the session. So we want you to make sure to participate and feel good and share with your constituents. And then our chancellor is going to speak a little bit more about this, but if you have not gotten the email yet, you will be getting it soon. The chancellor is launching a 5-borough listening tour. We are very excited. I am very excited. She is very much interested in making sure that she hears from all of you. And this is a great space to not only share the information, but to ensure that all of you motivate everyone to show up at these listening town halls, because they're going to be really, really insightful and a great opportunity for you to share all of your expertise and knowledge and experience that you have as the boots on the ground for us. So we are very excited to not only launch this, but also to ensure that you are present. And then, as you know, we are gearing up on the back end I just shared all of that with everybody in the chat. We are launching the CEC campaign in January officially. That does not mean that we are not working behind the scenes to figure out a whole host of things, but we just added a campaign manager just 2 weeks ago, but she's hit the ground running. We've had some folks on the team working to ensure some pieces are ready. So we will be inviting you very soon to a working group, because we want to make sure that we share with you just all of the things that we're thinking. When I started 2.5 years ago, I walked into the campaign already started, and there were a lot of lessons we learned, mostly from all of you. And so I'm really grateful to invite you to a working group to just share some of the thinking we've been doing around campaign guidelines and all of the things that sort of get tricky and messy when we put them in action. And we want to hear from all of you what your thoughts are. So look out for the working group invite, because that's going to be a big thing. And then we have a tentative just launch flyer that will be going out as well. So look forward to that. I see all folks from the Chancellor's team are here, but I still have like a couple more minutes. I'm not sure if anybody has anything for me. I can turn over my time if folks have or I can keep talking. Chair, it's up to you.
You still have 3 more minutes.
Perfect. I'll keep talking. So we have 2 town halls coming we have CEC 25 town hall coming, and if anyone here is from CEC 25 or in District 25, that'll be on November 18th, and then we have District 21's town hall on December 5th. Yes, so Randy will be there, and we should all show up and support. We're really excited. The Chancellor is really excited. It is also a wonderful opportunity to have conversation and be in conversation with not just the Chancellor, but her cabinet, to discuss all of the things that are real and are happening in your communities that maybe we're not hearing. And it could be all of the things that need some attention, but it could definitely be those spaces, those hidden gems that we don't always get to hear or experience from this side. And so we would love to hear in those town halls some of that. And if anyone has any questions for me, I am happy to say that. Which CEC is on the 5th? 21. CEC 21 is on December 5th. That is Randy's CEC. And then we have CEC 25 on November 18th. What should we be expect in terms of emails when we email Dr. Melendez and the Chancellor? What should we expect in terms of response to emails? I did get your email, but especially if it requires a calendar invite. I think that's when it gets tricky, because we want to make sure that we are coordinating the Chancellor's calendar. So I do have your email, and I've been out a couple of days, so I haven't responded, but I have received it, and it's an invitation which requires coordinating in other levels. But yes, thank you, Queens High School. Yep, no, thank you, and apologies for that. Anyone else? I don't see the chancellors on just yet. Is that accurate? Not yet. She's on. Location and details for both. Yes. So at PIA for District 25, we will have the town hall November 18th at Junior High School 185. Junior High School 185. And then for District 21, we will have Randy's District 21's town hall. Randy already put it in the chat, but it's at Kingsborough. She writes the short version, but it is an incredible school. You graduate with not just one degree, but two, which is awesome. So we're really excited to be there. It's one of those gems in our school communities and in our districts. Any other? I'm also going to be reaching out to some of you around our literacy hubs. So we have literacy spaces in some community businesses, and we only have 5 districts that actually have hubs, but we will be expanding that this year. So if there are spaces, I know that there are lots of spaces that we are not currently in, but we also need support in trying to maintain them because it is a community project. So the business owner, as well as someone in spaces like CPAC or any other parent leadership space or volunteer space can support in maintaining it, which really is just taking a picture of a QR code and telling us you need to put more books in here because people have taken them, which is not the expectation, but we also don't stop people from taking the books. If you love it, we want you to have it. So let us know 2 things, and we'll send that via CPAC, but let us know 2 things. If there's a space that you know we should be at, and then 2, if you are interested in supporting that space as well, that would be a perfect piece of a perfect combination. And I see our chancellor is here, so I will stop and turn it back over to Rosa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christina. Believe me, all the information you provide is very, very important. And we have our new chancellor, Melissa Ramos Aviles. Take it away. The mic is all yours.
Good morning and congratulations, Chair. It's very nice to see you. And also just want to acknowledge all of our CPAC members here, but especially some of our new folks. So again, congratulations, Chair, and also to Ashley Mulero, D1 President Council, and Josephine Cangalosi for D20 President Council as well. So thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to talk to you a little bit more. I know that I've had the great pleasure of meeting with you in my very brief time as Deputy Chancellor for Family and Community Engagement. And even in my role as Chancellor, I want to thank you all because the personal outreach, the text messages, the phone calls, the emails, you all stay super connected with me. And so I'm deeply appreciative of that. And as you may have heard, and this is all thanks to you, I have been speaking a lot about family empowerment as opposed to engagement. And that came out of this specific space. Shirley and Randy raised that directly in this meeting. And I'm very grateful to both of them because that's exactly what we are doing. We are working to empower our families. And I was just having a conversation with my team, and my chief of staff, Kenita Lloyd, mentioned, it was so great when you talked about, what happened to you last week with parent-teacher conferences. And I will share it all with you because it really does speak to the work that we all do in New York City Public Schools. So I was obviously at a conference and my schedule was packed and there was a time difference. And all of a sudden I get a phone call and I don't recognize the number, but something told me to pick it up. And I hear a gentleman say, Miss Ramos, good evening. Didn't see you at parent teacher conference. And I'm going, oh my God, I missed my daughter's parent teacher conference. And the teacher was just so gracious and so wonderful. And he called me from his personal mobile to just tell me how well my daughter is doing. And I share that moment with all of you because our parenthood looks different across New York City. And regardless of what that looks like, we should all remember to be compassionate and supportive and empathetic, because it's hard, right? It's hard for me, who sits in an extremely privileged place, and I have an ecosystem of support, and I have this amazing job, albeit a super demanding one, but amazing. And there are people who have other struggles that look very different. And so when we empower families, we say, we're not keeping track of the fact that you didn't come to a parent teacher conference. We're not keeping track of the fact that we called you and you haven't responded. We're not keeping track to judge you. What we're saying is that we need to find a way to open up the space and make it accessible. So regardless of what's going on, you feel coming into this space to talk, to vent, to learn is for you parents, right? And the only way that that can be done is if we empower our families to be leaders in their own space. And so I don't come to you as just a chancellor. I don't come to you as a lifelong educator. I come to you as a parent myself who deeply respects the work that you do, because I have benefited from it as a parent, as a principal, and as a teacher, and now very much so as a chancellor. So I just wanted to share that story with you because parenthood is real. And that's why empowerment is so important. I also, we have a couple of slides today to share with you. Don't know where those are, but if we could up them. Awesome. We can skip past that one. One of the things that I have been very intent. First of all, I'm an English teacher at heart. Obviously, everybody knows that. Or if you didn't, you learned today. But the reason why I mention that is because I truly believe in the power of language. We need to be really intentional with the words that we use. Again, going back to empowerment over engagement. But it's so important to me that in this new role, the year is already, we're already in November. And for those of you, you know, as teachers, we know that that already means like half the year to us is gone. And so I keep getting this question: what is your big thing? What are the big initiatives you're going to do? What is your vision? And I just want to be very, very transparent with all of you. As a teacher and as a mother and someone who knows the system very well, because I've sat in almost every seat, I can tell you that when you change up a system in October or November, it does not do anything good for children and the families and teachers. It just doesn't. My commitment, my priority is to make sure the great work that we started continues and has impact. So New York City Reads is a behemoth of an initiative. It's an important, amazing initiative, but like everything else, implementation needs to constantly be monitored, and we need to make sure that we're tweaking and fixing and working to make it successful. We don't need new additional initiatives in that space. We need to make sure that's working. However, while I share those same priorities that started under Chancellor Banks, particularly because I was a big part of the start of all of those, I also recognize that there are areas that we must double down on as prerequisites, essential prerequisites for learning to happen in the classroom. And this is why I'm calling them my commitments, because these are my promises. These are my commitments to you and your children. And they are very, very simple. One is ensuring safety and promoting wellness. And when we talk about safety, we are talking about physical and emotional safety and wellness. Our children need to feel welcomed and loved when they leave their homes, when on their way to school, when they get to school, and when they go back home. And this is why a community approach to education is so important, and it is a big part of my leadership. Number two, strengthening comprehensive teacher supports. Teachers are all the things. They are school counselors, they're social workers, they are sometimes they're therapists, they are deans, they're curriculum writers. They do so many things. We expect so many things from them. And we're so lucky that we have so many amazing teachers who do those jobs day in and day out. But what would it look like? What does it look like when we provide optimal support to our teachers? And it started with New York City Read. This is part of the reason why we wanted to offer curriculum and we wanted to offer this job embedded shoulder to shoulder training for those teachers. But what I will say is that it needs to go even deeper, because when children who are experiencing trauma show up day in and day out, and we are trying to navigate difficult situations with them to make them feel at home in school, someone needs to pour into the teachers so the teachers can reset and come every single day and do the job again. So while we're also caring for our families and our children, we need to make sure that we're pouring into our teachers to make sure that they feel supported, that they feel appreciated, and that they have all the tools and resources that they need to be able to show up and deliver for our children every single day. And the third one is fostering genuine and impactful family and community partnerships. And obviously, I opened very much centering in on this. But I also, in the coming weeks, am going to make announcements around additional structures that we want to put in place to empower our families and give them opportunities for training and to spread information and support to other families. I think that the answers are usually in the room. It's just a matter of coordinating everyone together and figuring out how to get the job done. I'm often credited with the work that I did for Project Open Arms, and I always have to remind everyone that all I did was recognize talent across the system and pull people together and ask, what do you need from me to help you get the job done? I did not design the structures that exist for students in temporary housing. I didn't design the structures that exist for family engagement and empowerment. I didn't design any of the work that supports our multilingual learners. I simply took inventory and pulled them together. Why is this important? Because that is the type of leader that I want to continue to be for all of you. I'm not looking to give you the answers. I'm not looking to create the answers, I should say. I'm looking at who we can pull together to get the answers in the room to you. And part of that is empowering our families and our community partnerships, because all the answers don't always come from New York City public schools. Not all the best professional development comes from New York City public schools. Not all the resources come just from New York City public schools. They come from our partners in our communities. They come from our partners in our families. And so it was important for me. This is actually the first time that I'm speaking in depth about my commitments, and I'm so proud that in alignment with we are building family leaders. That is, I want to be that chancellor. And so it is so fitting for me to unpack these with you. There is so much more to come. It's month one. This is also like almost my 1 month anniversary. Happy anniversary to me, you guys. I almost 1 month that I've been in the seat. And so I'm excited to celebrate. It sounds silly, but I'm excited to celebrate that here with you and to really unpack these commitments, because these commitments are for you and they're for our children. I don't say your children, I say our children, because my baby's out there too. And your babies are my babies. And I want to thank you for entrusting me with them. Is that the only? I think there was one more. If not, we can stop there. Okay, perfect. So I'm super excited to launch our borough tours. These borough listening tours are very important to me, because even though we've had structures like this in previous administrations, I would very much like to take maybe a slightly different approach. After we listen at these borough listening tours, we would very much like to produce a summary of what we learned and identify trends and patterns in alignment with our 3 commitments. And it's important because this is going to maintain transparency with all of you on what we're hearing, and how we are codifying all of that so that way we can respond appropriately to what we're hearing outside. So there is a listening tour in every single borough. We are aggressively getting these done before the holiday season because we really want to hear from you, and everything that you have to say is going to continue to shape the ways in which we move. So just asking you all to please join us if you're not able to be there. Send a friend, send a representative, invite whoever you think needs to be there. This is a true, authentic opportunity for us to hear from you, which is really important to me. So I know that I've talked a whole bunch, and I want to stop there to give everyone an opportunity to react and ask questions. I know that a lot has happened over the last few months, and so what you have to say and the questions you ask are very important to us. And thank you always for giving me space and time here.
Absolutely. And thank you because I feel really empowered, like so energetic, like yes, like I'm so hopeful that everything will be much better, more accountable, and we can literally trust you to continue the amazing work that New York City Public Schools can do. I know we've sent a couple of questions already. I'm not sure if you got them or if you have the answers to those. It'd be great if we can hear those answers. If not, um, let me know. I don't know. You shaking your head like, yes, I'm
No,
ready.
I'm fine with answering them. If we could just maybe go through them, like if you can ask them and we'll go through them, and if time permits, I see we already have a couple of hands up.
Right. So we sent out a questionnaire for the November 14th. So if you did fill out the questionnaire, uh, those questions will be asked first. Um, let me see. Anthony, would you be able to help me? Um, if he's here, where is he?
I know the
I
one
can.
question. Oh, sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead,
go ahead.
Dr. Melendez, please.
No, you can go ahead and then I can ask the rest if.
Thank you, thank you.
I know one of them is regarding the calendar school year. So we are not adding a day. We're not adding a day. We had enough days to be able to grant the December 23rd day. If we get snow, we will have to pivot to remote. So we won't get a snow day where there's no instruction. And that's the trade-off, right? But a couple things, again, going back to the commitment, we have to think about families and teachers. And um, if teachers are not able to make it in on December 23rd or additional staff members, and we are, trying to make sure that our children have everything that they need, that that's just it creates an issue that we don't need to have when we have the day. So we thought just logistically, again, having been a principal and having to um, cover classes on extra special days, we were thinking about the whole school community. And given that we had the extra day, we thought it was fitting. And then of course we had our young man write a letter to the mayor and to the former chancellor. And he's like, I think he got something like 2,000 signatures. I mean, it was really impressive. And so who could tell him no? I certainly can't tell him no. So
The next question here is, we are hearing from several parent leaders that there are ongoing challenges in building strong partnerships between schools and PTAs. What measures are in place to ensure that schools are actively collaborating with PTA and parent leaders to promote meaningful parent engagement?
Yep, super important question. So we are actually, Dr. Melendez is spearheading this. This is something that she and I talked about when I was still deputy chancellor, creating this pilot opportunity for parent leaders and district leaders to receive targeted support on how to work collaboratively. And this is being done not only through FACE, but also with Division of School Leadership. It's super, super important that those two divisions work closely. I'm very lucky that I have two amazing people to do that work together. But in many cases, it's really just making sure that both the parent leaders and the superintendents have the tools that they need to be able to collaborate productively, efficiently, and even when there are disagreements, what does that respectful discourse look like? And so we're in the process of rolling that out, and we're super excited.
The next question is, what is your plan to provide a better support and resource for parent leaders across our schools? Specifically, how are we addressing the needs for greater recognition and empowerment of these leaders?
Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the previous question and this pilot, but also we needed to strengthen the relationship between faith and division of school leadership, because we have our FLCs and our FSCs and our PCs. We have way too many acronyms. But we need to empower all of those folks, but everybody reports to different people. For parent coordinators report to principals, your FLCs and your FSCs report to superintendents. Then you have FACE over here who's providing professional development. And so we know that things only work when we have a cohesive plan to work together and there's a shared vision for leadership. And that's the work that we're really doing now, so that way you all benefit from it.
And Chancellor, if you don't mind, if I just add something to that as well.
Yeah.
Of course.
Part of our investment also is professional. Part of our investment is also in the professional development and hearing from parent leaders across the system as to what the need is for professional development. So as you all know, we did a citywide professional learning last year, and it was so great that we did another one in the fall of this year. And we have plans of doing another one in the spring of this school year, continuing to build off of that and bringing parents and district leaders together in that space to learn together and to move the work forward. So we've been getting such great feedback about that opportunity, and I just wanted to share that in this space.
Deputy Chancellor Wax, spot on.
Would it be possible for the Chancellor to attend an upcoming Borough President's Council meeting to engage directly with our constituents? And you're hosting your own.
Yeah, I'm always willing to go to any space where I can communicate with our stakeholders transparently. It just always, it's based on the calendar. There were things that shifted from the previous chancellor's calendar that shifted to mine, and then there were additional things that came in. So if you just please work with Dr. Melendez and make sure my office has the information. If I'm available, I will happily join.
And then I think their next follow-up question there is, how do they get on your calendar? And I think the answer is just reach out to me and I'm happy to then follow up. What is being done to hold schools accountable for their compliance with PTA standards, especially when it comes to PTA not functioning with a full board?
Yeah, I hate to just keep reiterating the same response, but this is where deep professional learning, but not like the kind where we sit in an auditorium and hear people speak at us. This is why we are so grateful to Deputy Chancellor Rux and to Dr. Melendez for working together on how we are going to better train and target it based on where the need is, right? It's not just a one size fits all. If a PTA is functioning beautifully and has an excellent relationship with a principal, why are we not leveraging that group as a best practice in other spaces so other PTAs can learn from them? No one wants to hear from me, and I adore you, Christina, but at some point, no one wants to hear from Christina. And at some point, they're not going to want to hear from Dr. Rux either, because we are these authoritative figures in the minds of some folks. It's more where, show me where it's working so I can learn from it, right? And I love what Ms. Montero just put in the chat. create or conduct a PTA etiquette training. And part of that training should also be look at these models that we have across the city, right? And so when we talk about professional development, it's how do we connect people who are doing the work really well so people can learn from their peers, not just hear us talking at people ad nauseum.
Yeah. And I think just to add, we want more of this, right? FACE wants to know we can't be at every PTA meeting. It is virtually impossible. We have PCs that we continue to support, whether it's through the FLC or directly, but we need the information that you need for us to share with them. And so CPAC is also a great space for all of the president's councils to gather that information for each district and then send it over to CPAC, because CPAC does a great job at sending it over to me specifically, and we can all work together here to figure that out. But sometimes our president's councils are off on their own, right? And so I want to continue to reinforce that CPAC is a wonderful space to center all of that, and that they do a lot of the professional development trainings to our PTAs directly, but only if they know, right? And so we need to make sure that that we're flagging everybody so that we can pull all our resources together to support you. I think this is more of the PTA operations where, you know, where are there if there are no interim annual reports, who's overseeing the financial integrity of PTA operations?
Yep. So we know that CPAC is an excellent resource because you are here to provide support and professional development when needed. But your FLCs, right, are prepared to have those conversations and provide those trainings to PCs as well as the PTA and PA. So if your FLC has questions, we urge you to reach out to FACE for clarity, right? That's where we come in. And you should flag where you think that there are issues. You can speak to Dr. Melendez offline. And that's, good feedback for us so that way we know who to support.
And then I think this is something that comes up often, which is we would like to inquire about the availability and allocation of PTA rooms and spaces within schools. Are there policies or guidelines in place to ensure PTAs have access to appropriate facilities to conduct their activities and store their materials, etc.?
Mm-hmm. So PAs and PTAs are entitled to free use of school buildings, including school safety or security coverage, for up to 110 hours per year outside of school hours. The executive board is responsible for obtaining the necessary permits, and those hours are for the exclusive use of PA, PTA, and they're not transferable to other groups or organization. So those 110 hours can be used 12 months a year. Unused hours can be rolled over month to month, but expire at the end of the school year. So if you didn't use them at the end of the school year, they don't transfer into the new school year. If there is more than one school in the building, each PTA is entitled to 110 hours of free use per year. And the PTAs may charge admission fees and receive donations, contributions. Again, you have Regulation A660. And let's see, under Regulation D130, PAs and PTAs are also prohibited from holding candidate forums for any political or community-based organization. So that's important to know, please. And you may hold candidate forums only for the election of their officers, but the use of the school buildings during school hours, PAs and PTAs that wish to use the school building during school hours must obtain permission from the principal. And so if you have any other questions about the regulation or anything more specific than that, you should really have a conversation with Dr. Melendez.
Yes. And then I'm going to turn it over. Those are all the questions I have, Chair. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
I do think we have one more question, and I do want to just take 1 minute to discuss this. I am asked regularly who is going to be the new Deputy Chancellor for this division. I want to say that we are looking at the division a little differently. So family empowerment will be at the core of it, but we are making a couple of shifts pulling out from the division and adding a couple of things in. We are in the process of vetting our final candidate. But unfortunately, until that vetting occurs, we cannot share with the community right? There are protocols and procedures in place, and we need to be respectful of those. What I will say is that when that person is selected, this will be the very first group to know. And nope, no hints. But we will make sure that you have time with the candidate, very much in the way that you did with me, to speak with them and share concerns. But this work is very important, and so I've been thinking about it for a long time because I knew for a little bit that I was going to be chancellor, and so I was thinking about this for a long time, and I am really excited at the prospect of this person joining us. So more to come in the very near future.
I was super excited. I was, oh my God, we're gonna get the answer today. But just so I can add to what the chancellor has said and Dr. Christina has said, one thing that we're forgetting is that we are CPAC, right? We have a representative of every single district president's council and borough president's council. Like, utilize what you have in front of you. If you are the president of the president's council, it's because you know the system, you know the rules, you know the protocols to follow, and you have CPAC. We are here to help you, to gather, to work, to guide you. Let us know. So, any questions with regards to SLTs, Title One, PAPTAs, let us know. We are here. Like, literally, we are here. Um, and by the way, I love, and I have to shout her out, my FLC, Rosangela and Nancy Pereira. I love you. Just in case, they are my rock, and I communicate with them 24/7. Maybe I bother them too much. Anyways, thank you, Chancellor, for everything. Thank you, Dr. Christina, for
Thank you.
everything. Um, I believe we do have a minute for District 17 to ask a question. I know you've been holding for a little while, so I want to acknowledge you, Veronica.
Hi, good morning, and thank you.
Good
Thank you
morning.
for allowing me. And I'd like to welcome our new chancellor. I'm looking forward to working with you and collaborating. However, there are two questions. One of my questions, vegan Fridays. A lot of our babies are going home hungry because they're taking the trays and they're putting it in the garbage. Is it possible that we can still have vegan Friday, but should be options of other meals that our babies are entitled to? And my next ask of you, I know the chances reg said that a PA or a PTA should just have a cabinet. Is there any way that we can change that? Because I'm saying if we have our families are happy in the building, we get more production. Right now in my district, there is a principal who have the PTA cabinet in the bathroom. So if someone is using the bathroom, they have to wait to get to the cabinet. And I think that is unfair because we are volunteering and we want to do the work for our community. And I think that as long as we are comfortable, I think we will get more out of parents. So those were two of my concerns out of District 17, but I also know other districts have a problem with the vegan Friday. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Veronica.
much, Ms. Clark. I really appreciate those questions. And so I think we have our team on with us, but what I will say is that Chris Tricarico, who oversees our food and nutrition office, he has done amazing things with our students and testing the food, do taste testing, and our kids give feedback, and he makes changes. I don't remember which dish it was, but Anna, my daughter Anna, wasn't part of the tasting, but she made sure she came home and she was like, "Please tell your friend, the man who does this, that didn't work out. And then the next week she was like, this was great. So, and he really took the feedback, you know, and he has these sessions with our students from across the city giving feedback. So if Deputy Chancellor Vadera is on, or if Chris Tricarico is on to speak specifically about Vegan Fridays and what we could potentially do. But if they're not here, what I will say is that they are always willing to take feedback. And so I'm happy to communicate with them if they're not here. But do we have Deputy
Sure.
Chancellor?
Yes, I'm here representing the Office of Food and Nutrition Services.
Oh,
My name is
great.
Nelson Quiles, and I'm here for Chris. So, Veronica, thank you for that question. And I'm happy that you referred to them as Vegan Fridays. So the first time we ever launched a Vegan Friday, it was referred to as Vegan Friday. And we learned very quickly that um, only vegan options weren't going to be very successful in our school. So we quickly pivoted to plant-based options. So every Friday we have a plant-powered Friday where we do offer plant-based options. Not all of them are vegan. And the one thing that we really want to drive home is that there's multiple options available every single day, not just on Fridays. So that's something that Chris and team have really been trying to communicate with our schools, our students, our parents, that every school does provide multiple options. Now, when you look at our menu, you might see a main or a center of the plate item, but we're always going to have anywhere from 3 to 5 additional items to accompany that item on that particular day. So we do want to encourage our students to ask our staff behind the line what else is on the menu today, because our goal is to ultimately feed every single student and provide them with something that they're going to be able to take off the line and eat happily. Um, just like the chancellor also mentioned, a big thing for us is feedback. Earlier, I put our student survey link in the chat. I want to encourage everyone to please share that with parents, with students, with administrators. We want to collect feedback. We take that feedback and we make real-time decisions and changes to our menus using that information. We found that ultimately that's probably our best way to kind of cast a wide net to collect that feedback. So we just want to encourage folks. We do have our student taste testings that take place. We're doing them 3 times a week, where students will come to our headquarters. They'll test any new recipe that we're thinking about putting on our menu. And those items have to get a 70% approval rating before we can even entertain putting them on the menu. So we take great pride in saying that our menus are student driven and student taste tested. But please encourage folks to fill out that survey. We really, really need that. Thank you.
Nelson, thank you so much. And just to the second half of the question, Ms. Clark, I'm going to ask you if you can connect with Dr. Melendez on the specific space, so that way we can get that information over to Dr. Rux as well, and her chief, who oversees the school, just so that way we can make sure that we connect and we figure out what's going on. We need to make sure that we get to the bottom of whatever's happening, but most importantly, we know that there are many schools that really are strapped for space. It's a struggle for our schools. That said, the work that you do needs to be respected and uplifted, and we want to make sure that you are spaced appropriately, and a bathroom is certainly not what I would consider an appropriate location for a cabinet. So please connect with Dr. Melendez to give her those details so we could quickly connect with the school community.
Absolutely. I think hopefully it's a miscommunication, misunderstanding, and that's not really happening. But if there is, we are here to resolve any problems live, in real time. So, I believe, Randy, would you like the mic, please?
Thank you, Rosa. So Chancellor Ramos, I absolutely love your commitment. I love all your commitments, but especially number 3. So we look forward to the opportunity for us as CPAC to advise you as your Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. Unfortunately, we weren't given that opportunity with the previous chancellor, and we look forward to setting up a meeting with you so we can share insight for our 1,600 plus schools, and we can start collaborating and advising. I'd also like to thank, going to publicly thank DIIT, specifically Helen and Mohammed, for setting up our Zoom for CPAC. We were asking for that for quite some time, and they were able to do that for us, which was great. They did the run through. They helped us so we could live stream on YouTube, so all our families and our parent leaders can see, and we're being transparent and we're public, and it's great. But we do have some questions regarding the parent leader emails. If we can meet privately to address it, publicly to address it, whatever you choose, but we appreciate you so much.
I'm so happy to hear that the Zooms were set up. And I also want to thank DIIT. This is obviously something that we've been talking about for a while, even before I was in any of these spaces. And I want to thank you for your patience. And I also do want to note that, DIIT is trying to comply with a citywide mandate. This is coming from City Hall, right? And so, again, being that we're New York City public schools, things look a little differently for us. And so we're trying to work through those issues. And we deeply appreciate your patience and the feedback and the wonderful people at DIIT who know that this is very important to me, and they are prioritizing it and working with you. That being said, you said something else about advising me, and I absolutely look forward to having regular meetings with you and us starting those as soon as possible. So I will make sure that Christina and my office work together so we can launch the first one. I understand that hybrid, I'm sorry, that virtual is usually preferred, but in the rare cases that we're all able to join in person as well, I think that would be great. It also doesn't have to always be at Tweed. If there is a district that we should meet at, I defer to Christina and you all to figure that out. But to the extent that we can be in community, but within our communities and not just at Tweed, that's also important to me. So I'll leave the details up to all of you, but we should talk more about the DIIT simply because I'm a little over time and I know that I have to run. I always get in trouble because I don't stick to my schedule. I drive everyone crazy. But I would love for that to be, one of the big topics that we discuss in our very first meeting.
Thank you. And I was also going to add the fact that you're here as long as you are. We've never had a chance to stay as long as you have. So we appreciate and respect that so much. And I also have to advocate because Dr. Melendez and Anthony Aguilar have been like such advocates in helping us formulate our questions and making sure that we get everything that we need. And they've been advocating, especially with these parent leader emails. It's been frustrating. So I want to thank them and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And it's great to see you all. And again, I know I talk a lot and I have a lot to say, and you're always just so gracious and willing to listen and patient. I want to thank you all for giving us the space that we need during this transition to say to you, we're working on this, but we need a little bit more time, or we need to coordinate with these offices. Just the fact that you hear us out and you work with us. Again, it's not that we always agree. We're not all always going to agree. This system is far too large and complex for all of us to agree. And when a decision is made, sometimes most people are going to be happy, but there's always going to be some people who aren't. But it's about the way in which we work together. It's about our productivity, and it's about staying focused and centered on our families and our children. So you advising me is so important. And I want to end really quickly by thanking the team, our deputy chancellors, our chiefs, our superintendents, our principals, amazing work that they do. Again, no one's perfect. None of us are perfect, but together as a system, we have amazing people who are centering our children. So I also want to make sure that I thank them. So I look forward to seeing you all really, really soon and answering more questions. And you know that we don't need formal meetings to connect. You can always reach out, call, email, text, and we'll be as responsive as we can. But thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.
Absolutely. And also just want to acknowledge what one of the executive board members said earlier. We are so glad that you're actually sitting down and taking the time to actually talk to us rather than rushing. And we do appreciate it.
Thank you. I can't promise that one day you won't catch me in a car in between meetings. Like that may happen, but please know that you'll still have my full respect and attention. But sometimes the schedule is a little crazy and you might catch me in a car. So I do want to say that, but I will always do my best to prioritize being in a quiet space where I can truly pay attention. So if you see me in a car, just know that there was no other way around it. But like I'm here for this. I enjoy this work. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you all soon and have a great weekend. We're almost at the weekend. Bye.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I know that we wanted to do something like Anthony Settles gems, not so secret gems, and Anthony's working on something new for next month. Anthony, you want to say something before I go to the next slide? Anthony's so busy working. Okay. Thank you. Thank you
Sure,
so much. Oh, yeah.
sure. So yes, we're going to continue something like Anthony had with his secret gems. But Rosa said a suggestion on maybe Anthony's wealth of knowledge, where we'll be giving reminders based on the calendar and what's up and coming, so that you can inform your districts on what's going on, and then just some insights and pointers based on what other districts are doing to support you in your districts.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is coming next month. So you have to tune in because we work together, right? We don't have all the knowledge in the world, but that's why we have CPAC. CPAC supports every single district, including borough high schools. Yes, Dr. Melendez.
I'm sorry, you could just finish.
Go ahead.
I think I was just going to say exactly what you were saying. I think it would be really, really helpful. I ask all of you or your designees, whoever comes to the CPAC meeting for your district. First of all, let's make sure that every district is represented at the CPAC meeting. I want to join the chair on that and the executive board on that because it is it's such an important, rich space. Not only do we get senior cabinet that you can ask direct questions to, but also a space for us to hear from you and every single district what is in fact needed and what is going on. And sometimes we don't hear it. And then things happen and we get these emails. So for us, it's really helpful to use this time for you to get your questions answered directly from the source, but then also to hear your advice on many of the things that you are seeing and the trends that you are identifying, so that then we can, maybe the board or whoever is meeting with the chancellor on a particular cadence can continue to develop those ideas. So I urge us all to use that. And I urge us all to, like, when Anthony, which I'm like, I don't know, we have 3 Anthonys here. So you got one Anthony retired, but we have another Anthony. And that's just so awesome because it keeps us all in the same space. But when Anthony shows up with some new information or pieces of or reminders, I want you to push in. If you don't get it, if you don't know, it's really important that you share that here because there's so many people here that are experts in this work. And I'm not saying Anthony or myself, I am actually speaking about all of the members here. And so it's really helpful for Rosa and Randy and the rest of the executive team to know this is a big issue because then we can with CPAC plan around a more explicit, direct sort of support, but we can only help what we know about. And so I said that already, but I'm saying it again because no question is silly, no question is too small, no question is dumb or inappropriate, or like everyone here has the same question. Even if they've been here for 10 years, they still look at it and they're like, oh wait, can I? And that's really important because then we also get the grievances, the OSI, all of those things. And we don't want to be in that space. We don't want to be in the judgy space. We like to be in the supportive space. So however we can work together to do that, through this space, I would love to partner with CPAC, continue to partner with CPAC on very explicit professional developments that we can do with groups of people or subgroups of people. So please continue to come and with your questions.
Awesome, awesome. And that's what CPAC is, providing knowledge to all the district's president's council. And then it's recorded. Share the recording. It's there for, many, many, many years to come. Thank you so much, Chancellor Dr. Christina, Anthony Aguilar. I love the last name. And everyone, thank you very much. What is CPAC, right? Still people sometimes they don't know it. That's okay. If you don't ask what is CPAC, then you're not going to know. You need the answer. This is it. We are elected parent leaders representing all New York City public schools and their families. Literally, we are here, all of us, representing everyone. We are comprised of 38 President's Council. 38, that's crazy. CPAC ensures the parents' voice is heard. We are here. Please join, have few questions, answer the questionnaire. We're going to send the December questionnaire, answer it, ask you questions there. It will be sent out to the chancellor. The chancellor will have already the answers. And we are always, always striving for excellence, equity, and opportunity for all. We collaborate like we're doing today, and we have been doing so with different stakeholders, and we work together to provide the best and useful information. That's what we do. My computer's not working now. There we go. Um, and of course, an update. We don't have the October minutes. I know the former recording secretary is busy. I get it, right? I've been there. Hopefully we'll get it by the next meeting or within a week or two. It will be sent out because there's a lot of information in there, including the elections. And we'll table it for next month. And Randy, do you want to say anything else before we close? Oh, motion, right? But Randy, you don't want the floor? Say hi. Thank you.
I'm good. I just try to be respectful of everyone's time. So it's 12:05. I don't wanna, go longer. If anyone has questions, we're here.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we wish you happy, healthy, and blessed Thanksgiving to everyone. If you have any questions, you know where to reach us. And I would like a motion, which I totally forgot. Motion to adjourn the meeting, please. Anyone?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Okay, Queens High School, motion to adjourn. And who was the second one?
Josephine.
Thank you, D20. Thank you very much. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Let me stop the recording.
Anthony, if you don't mind staying for a couple minutes.
The live stream, Rosa. Sorry, Christina.
Yes, once again, I'm looking for it.
And the live stream is a delay when it stops.
Okay. Give me 1 minute. Almost there, I think. Let's see.
Did you stop it?
I am not getting the stop button.